Today, in this episode, we're diving into the origins of the pick-me culture, how it developed historically, why it's still embedded in our social expectations, and how it shapes women's identity formation from a young age. We'll explore the pressures to be chosen, the emotional and cultural weight of being unmarried, and the subtle ways this mindset continues to impact the way women define their worth. This is the foundation, the backstory, the first layer of a much deeper conversation, because what we're talking about today needs to be felt to be fully understood. We're diving into something that has shaped women's choices, careers, and identities for generations. Me culture. Take a moment to understand where it comes from. Pick-me culture has become more widely used in recent years, especially online. It started as a way to describe women who tried really hard to be chosen by men, often by putting down other women or going out of their way to appear low maintenance, agreeable, or overly accommodating. But the truth is, this mindset has been around long before we gave it a name. It didn't start with history, with systems that taught women their value was tied to bearable and chosen by a man. Many women's survival was tied to marriage because of legal and economic limits. For example, married women in some states couldn't own property until the mid to late 1800s. In the 20th century, many couldn't open a bank account or get credit without a male co-signer. Marriage wasn't just expected. Women were raised to be chosen. Some, particularly unmarried women, lived a different path. A small but important tangent here, because it's worth pausing on the women often left out of this narrative. Women who owned property or lived independently were often among the few with inherited wealth, education, or family support that made that possible. Some were widows. Single women have long been viewed as pitiable, suspect, selfish. Their independence wasn't seen as accomplished. She was seen stigma. You hear it in the loaded questions, the subtle pity, the cultural script that whispers, something must be wrong if she's still single. To stand on their own. But that wasn't always the norm. And in married by a certain age, it raised eyebrows. Parents, friends were getting married, and they didn't want to be the last one single in the group. There's a quiet pressure, especially in certain age brackets, that makes women feel like they have something to prove. Not because their desirability is fading, but because they want to feel accepted. They want to say, I'm married. Acceptance still holds weight in a world that treats partnership like proof of worth. To some, we loved isn't wrong, but when it becomes your measure of value, it distorts everything else. Let's slow down. Weren't raised to dream or lead or build. They were raised to behaving like a narcissistic parent, one who doesn't want you to know you have power, let alone what you're capable of. The worth isn't being chosen. She stops choosing herself. It's not just about being clients who want caretakers, who want someone who won't push back. This dynamic often draws individuals with narcissistic traits, the ones who feed off unbalanced relationships. So the pick-me mindset is easier to love. It makes you easier to control. You learn to exist in relation to a man. Many women still describe themselves this way, for being wanted, not for being seen as full human beings. Being wanted often means being not who they are. It creates a lopsided dynamic. Women become aspirational objects, named for trying too hard to earn their attention. Serve, but don't expect. Be available to someone else's presence, approval, or needs. You lose your sense of self, especially in relationships with someone who shows traits of narcissism, where admiration and control are always demanded. Eventually, you forget who you were. It shapes who they choose, what they accept, and how easily they can be controlled. Because when you're trained to suppress yourself for approval is the goal, then uses that belief to keep them quiet and compliant. So as we close out this episode, I want to leave you with us in our careers, our friendships, our ambition, and our sense of self, and what it might look like to begin unraveling those patterns. So if this resonated with you, make sure to subscribe